Hi, Tim Shields, Zaya America. As longtime followers of my page will already know, I enjoy hunting shiny Pokemon, something which has become an even more accessible sport given the increase in shiny spawn rates in recent entries. Given that this is Pride Month, I am opting to use my platform to elevate the voices of fellow queer tokusatsu content creators and fans, which does unfortunately mean that I have to give them some time to get their drafts into me to complete the videos for the back half of this month. Plus, honestly, look at this, I've been grinding. I've watched about 24 movies in the past week and written about as many scripts. So it seemed like the proper thing to do for my audience would actually be to generate some content at all. So while I wait, I figured, why don't we embark on a magical Pokemon journey, a la the 1990s manga Magical Pokemon Journey. I'll be excluding legendaries because basically they're just given out for event promos all the time and you can just buy them for, $30 with the DLC at this point with like 1 in 100 shiny rates once you get the charms, so I'm not really hunting those so much as they're being delivered to me on a platter.
I believe these words came from the Pokemon movie. The media pointed that out. I'm not sure who the original author is, so don't go write an article about the poem.
Oddish Gloom and Vileplume. This was a test run on the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee chain combo system. While I think the green is fine, I prefer the earlier generation's old black design a lot better, and I think that it would look amazing in modern graphics. However, I believe that I was hunting for a Growlithe and not a shiny Oddish Game Freak 6 out of 10. Cod Filter Pidgey. This one felt very much like my paying my dues as an early shiny hunter, if you know what I mean. It's a freebie. I, at the time of catching it, was about 3,300 kills into a rookity hunt with nothing to show for it, so it was especially insulting, I think. This is a 2 out of 10. I like that it's slightly golder, but oh, Gen 1. The Nidoran female line. It was all going so well. The first 2 stages are a beautiful inversion, giving her Nidoran male's colors. And then boom, you get puke green skin and lingerie. Awful. First 2 stages, I'm gonna give them a 8 out of 10, and then a 3 out of 10 for Nidoqueen. At least it's doing something new, even if what it's doing is really, really unappealing to me. Bowser. Everstoned. This is the height of Gen 1 shinies, but really shinies across the board. It's perfection in a digital dog. The goodest of boys. 1,000 out of 10. Surely nobody who owns one of these could be evil. Doduo and Dodrio. Generation 1 suffered from a lot of 7th generation console aesthetic, by which I mean it looks like pee-pee. A lot of the early shinies are just yellow or green counterparts of the base colors, which were more natural in coloration to begin with anyway, making some virtually indistinguishable. 4 out of 10, I think that this green that they chose is nicer than the one that they chose for, say, Nidoqueen. Psyduck. He's blue because water, and I love him. Hey look, it's Pikachu! I spent about 6 hours of my life on this. Are you kidding me, Game Freak? This is the mascot of this series. This is arguably the Pokemon that people are going to want to shiny hunt, and this is how you do it to them. Okay. 1 out of 10. It's not good. It's not even a better yellow. Rattata. I had spent about 18 consecutive hours hunting for a shiny Porygon, and this one showed up, and I said, you know what, screw it. And I took it and I went home and I popped an Everstone on it because shiny Raticate is just more Raticate. Top 90th percentile out of 10. Call of Duty Spearow, 2 out of 10 next. This Jigglypuff has green eyes, so I named it Midoripuff. I will probably never use it, but it's nice to have, and it allowed me to make a shitty pun, so 4 or 5 out of 10, somewhere in there. The Shiftry line I actually really dig. I got it from my friend Taylor along with the next 5 in this list, I think, when I got Swish, and it was really helpful for me during my playthrough because it came with a bunch of egg moves. Especially since the game won't let you catch any Pokemon until after you've beaten it, which is just asinine. 7 out of 10. There were a lot of very interesting and contentious design choices that went into developing Sword and Shield, but the failure to acknowledge the glory of Ekans is the one that most came around to bite them in their ass. 6 out of 10. It's green. It's green Ekans, but that actually kind of works because he's a snake. Pinsir. He's blue because water, and I love him. Vulpix has yellowed with age like a Game Boy or an SNES, which, despite finding funny and ironic, I would probably have gone with a different gold. I would give it maybe a 6 out of 10. I really need to just evolve this because, I mean, shiny Ninetales, like, that's a 9 out of 10. That's what that looks like, okay? That's beautiful. That's a really solid shiny. I just really like Vulpix, so, like, I kind of just want to catch a second one in Arceus or something. I don't know. Goldeen and Seaking are a powerhouse for some reason. My friend traded them to me with max IVs, and they quickly replaced Sobble on my team as my water type. However, it's more of the Pokemon Yellow generation yellowing, so about a 4 out of 10, I would say. It does look a little bit like a different koi fish, but they really could have, I think, emphasized that by maybe making the markings more of a red than an orange. I don't know. Everyone needs a shiny Chansey. The green trim and the creamy coloration are wonderful, making the absolute best of the limited Gen 1 color palette, and it can be a wonderful cleric for Dynamax battles if you're still doing those in 2022 for some reason. I have to give it an 8 out of 10. Comfey was my first shiny catch from Sword and Shield. I got it from my Dynamax adventures, so it has beautiful stats and a competitive loadout, and it's been a lovely doubles partner. I like how all of the flowers very slightly change in addition to the base creature. It's a neat design, and I adore fairy types and healers. That said, it could do a little more and change the flowers entirely into different colors, so I would probably give it about an 8 out of 10. Spent a day and a half catching and raising this Umbreon for a friend's girlfriend, and then they got tired of waiting and spent $2 on a hacked one from eBay, so... don't get me wrong, it's cool, no drama, but I personally would have evolved it into an Espeon given the choice. I like the gold rings more as the trim, for obvious reasons, I think. I want to say 6 out of 10, but like, being objective, I think it's probably a 7 out of 10. I think it's a very cool look. It gives it a unique ambiance to the standard. I just am slightly biased against it. This clumsy Pooh Bear stumbled into my path when I was hunting for Axew, so I quick-balled it. These dudes always remind me of the pills from Akira, and I'm sure you're all familiar with how I feel about gold at this point, but they really could have swapped the body color as well. I give it a 6 out of 10. Appropriately, I beat the odds on the Zaya line. I think I caught the Axew around 840 spawns. Axew's my favorite Pokemon. It's basically Bowser and Zaya, depending on which one you catch, and it knows False Swipe, so I can use it for further shiny hunting, which, I mean, basically cements it a place in my party when I'm not fighting somebody. It's a 10 out of 10. Glalie is another Dynamax Adventures acquisition, although the only real difference from the base coloration is in the eyes. Still, ice types are always nice. I'm very partial to them, and the dark combination makes for an interesting matchup to spring on people. I would give it a 5 out of 10 because I like red more than blue. Ponyta and Rapidash give Thouser a run for its money. The golden fur is absolutely beautiful on the modern GameCube engine that is the Switch, and the blue flame is just awesome and so unusual for Gen 1 shinies, never mind the black. Choosing to evolve this one was a hard decision because Ponyta is adorable, but the black flames of Rapidash's mane and tail make a compelling counter-argument, and I have to give both of them a 9 out of 10. It's Grimer, but it's green. What a shock. At least in this context, it makes sense because it's a sentient pile of waste, so 4 out of 10, I guess? Like, it looks alright. This one is basic but cute. There's only so much that you can do with Rhyhorn. Although it is one of my favorites, it's a very basic design, especially in coloration, but I think this works as a sort of regional variant or mud-covered version. Probably a 7 out of 10, I think, personally. It's a 5 or 6 out of 10, but I love Rhyhorn, so it's a 7 out of 10. As we move on to the evolutions, we have Gen 1, barely discernible differences in Rhydon, and then Rhyperior. So, Everstone. The problem is, I thought Ghastly looked pretty cool. Like, the vapor effect, it's very subtle, but it looks different and more ethereal, and it's appropriate, it's thematic. Haunter has a different color tongue, and then Gengar is so much of a disappointment that it's literally meme at this point, so like, I don't know. This is the first time I'd actually seen it because I try not to Google shinies before I find them, so this was disappointing. In order, I'm going to say 5 out of 10, 2 out of 10, and then of course 1 out of 10 for Shiny Gengar, which is just embarrassing. This Amora took me 4,387 kills to finally encounter, but when I finally did encounter it, it was so worth it. It's a simple inversion, but an inversion that makes sense as an environmental camouflage, plus also it's a dinosaur as well. It has an incredible moveset, and I love its cry. I feel like it would be really soft to lie down against after a hard day of murdering countless hordes of its peers to prove that it isn't extinct the way you do. This is a 10 out of 10. You know, my boss was actually themed after dinosaurs. The base form of Blipbug is very underwhelming. They basically just swapped out the purple for gold, which obviously I hate. But it really became its own thing the further it went down the evolutionary line, giving it a much more sinister air than the kooky-based ladybug coloration. This is the sort of thing you like to see in a random shiny full odds encounter, and I have to give it a 9 out of 10. Rookity's line is fantastic all the way through. It's a very simple change, but a very dynamic and impactful one. It basically takes away the night aspect of the birds, and replaces it with the night aspect of the birds. I have to give it a 9 out of 10. The first catch of Arceus was this lovely Snorunt, whose coloration I actually prefer to the original. It just sort of makes more contextual sense to me for its camouflage to be blue rather than yellow, given that it's an ice type that lives in the tundra. I think for as basic a change as it is, it's incredibly dynamic, and basically comes off like another regional variant, like Rhydon. I would probably give this an 8 out of 10. They could have changed up maybe the eye color or something, but otherwise I think this is pretty fantastic. My second capture in Arceus was a Bronzong, which is another green swap. I think it works better in the context of Bronzong, given that it's made of metal, so it's like it oxidized over time, but it is a very basic switch that we've seen many times before. So I think I'll just give this one a 6 out of 10 and we'll move on. Oshawatta I received in a wonder trade when I was dumping a box of Drampas that I had bred to upset the economy. He sat in a box for a year before Arceus finally released and mutated him into a worse version of his true potential. Base form is negligibly different, though I do like his nose. The second form is slightly uglier Hedon blue, but the third form is just bland. I get that it's supposed to look like waves breaking, but it just looks like somebody drained all the life out of it. It's a 4 out of 10, basically across the line. I have 2 shiny Krikatots, one of which I evolved. I randomly encountered the first one at full odds when I was running around doing dex entries post-game so that I could fight Arceus. The second appeared later when I was hunting Beautifly. And, I don't know, it's gold. It looks better in the sunlight than it does in the decks, but it really isn't very original for a, what, Gen 4? Well, there you go, Gen 4 out of 10. Beautifly was my first test run of the new Arceus shiny hunting mechanics. Its nest is very close to the base camp, and it's pretty to look at, so I figured I could just grind out the dex entry, and eventually it would pop up, and that was exactly the case. It was about 4 hours, and then about 2 hours later I encountered a second one, so that's nice. I think that the gold trim really works in this one's favor a lot better than it does for, say, Pikachu, because it frames the stained glass design in the wings very beautifully. There you go, it earns its name. I would give this a 7 out of 10. It's a very basic change, but I think it works nicely, and frankly it just caters to my own biases. Gumi was a nightmare. It took me 2 days of non-stop searching in order to finally land one, but he looks like a custard baby, and I love him very much. Naturally, I chose to evolve this one into Sliggoo, which I promise looks better in sunlight than it does in Dex Entry pictures, as does Goodra. They are not septic as they appear in these photos. I feel like they should have probably kept the creamier body in favor of a purple shell, but I accept what we got. It's a 7 out of 10, I think. Shinx was a shiny that I always wanted, but never had the opportunity to hunt down, so I spent a few hours doing exactly that. And she is magnificent and handsome and regal, and utterly befitting of the Zaya brand. Sometimes a little difference can go a long way, and this is one of the best gold shinies in an ocean of choices. This is a 9 out of 10. Hisuian Voltorb was actually very funny for me because I was like, I should go hunt down a shiny Hisuian Voltorb. That seems like a fun idea. And so I went on my horse, blop, 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 and the first spawn of the area, hadn't even gotten the dex up to 10 yet, was shiny Hisuian Voltorb. So that was great. It was dope, and it saved me a lot of time. I love that they kept the Pokeball variant theming going from the Great Ball shiny of the traditional Voltorb to the Ultra Ball shiny in the Hisuian version. And I had to hunt down a second one to make an Electrode because I really love both of the eye designs that they went with in this version of it. I'm 9 out of 10. It's basic, but it's wonderful. Shiny Paris is outstanding. The simple brilliance of slightly brightening the yellow spots on the mushrooms reminds me of the way that vineyards will often age their... No, it sucks. It was a random spawn, and I got so excited when I heard the noise, and then I turned around, and there was just an angry zombie bug charging me. I will give it credit that the spots do look better than on the base Paris design, but there's like 5 of them, and they're relegated to 1 spot on its back, so like it doesn't really make much of an impact. This is a 2 out of 10. This is great. I always wanted a shiny Chatot, so I kept running around the beach on the way to marine hunts, and eventually one spawned, completely isolated from any of the others for me to compare it to, like a mirage. There's like 800 Pokemon now, over that I think, and then the shiny forms on top of that, so it's hard to keep track even when it's not already a tiny multicolored parrot. It's a beautiful redesign of a gorgeous base, feeling much more like a pirate's bird than the original. 9 out of 10. Plus if you have the 3DS games you can teach it to say swear words, so... Mr. Mime is great. I love this girl. She's incredible for team battles if you train her up right. She suffers the least, in my opinion, from Gen 1, turning purple psychics to green. For example, it frames the white on her instead of being eclipsed by it like on Mewtwo. I caught her in a mass outbreak that I checked out on a hunch, and I am very happy to have done so. Unfortunately, I have to give it a 6 out of 10 just because I feel like given that mimes are already clowns, it would have made sense to make all the polka dots different colors for the shiny. You know, something like Togepi. Mantike I caught while on the prowl for a shiny Finian, which I still have not caught because I hate shiny hunting water Pokemon. But especially in Arceus, it feels like unless you're hunting in the middle of the day, there's just too much reflection glare going on with the surface, and it makes it really hard to see the shiny sparkles. This is weak. They basically just moved the color slider like 2 millimeters to the left and called it a day, so I'm just going to give this a 2 out of 10 and call it a day. Bibarel showed up when I was running Riolu's Dex to max, and it is big and fat and squishy and gold and stupid, and I love it. 6 out of 10 for color, but 9 out of 10 for how intimidating it would be to have one of these dudes just barreling down at you. God, especially with that, like, shiny golden fur in the tundra, like, it's just, you're not even going to be able to see it. There's too much glare. It's going to be like you're getting rushed down by an Ultraman. A while back, I was snowboarding in the mountains when I was suddenly accosted by a monkey. Having trained for exactly such an occasion with my friend, Fua, I was quickly able to subdue the small simian. Satisfied, I rested until I was awoken in twilight and besieged by a massive hairy beast with 2 hands. So, thinking quickly, I threw an Ultra Ball at it, and it belongs to me now. I like Apom. I prefer this hue, but these aren't really great shinies. There's nothing particularly unique about them. They don't stand out from the original that much. You would have to hunt down which one was shiny if it was in a crowd. So, 3 out of 10. Croagunk was another random acquisition. It took me a solid 10 seconds just to pick out which one the shiny was in the crowd, case in point for the previous entry. Just a really underwhelming series of random encounters, but at least I wasn't actively hunting for them to be disappointed by them, like with Pikachu. 3 out of 10 because it at least looks more natural and toxic with the purple, but it's not great. Drifblim, however, was also a random encounter, and it looked so out of place and asset flipped when it dropped that I thought that it had glitched the game. It's a great shiny in my opinion, radically different in both aesthetic and tone from its original counterpart. It's much brighter and cheerier like a parade balloon, but the eyes and the mouth could use a little more outlining, I think, for definition. 8 out of 10, I think. Seriously, look at his face. How could anybody who likes this be a villain? He is the cutest in the world. You tell me what a lovely baby he is right now in the comments, or I swear to God I will come to your house and I will rain my vengeance down upon you.